now we are being recorded here. So what I want to do is I want to go through some procedures. First of all, just give me a wave. Have you had any other WITC courses or used Blackboard before? About half of you, a little over half of you. Okay. So that's the first thing I want to do is I want to show you how to access Blackboard and then go over the materials that are in Blackboard for this course. So if you go to your web browser, whichever your preferred one is, I found that Chrome works best with the WITC website. And you just go to witc.edu, that's our website. On the website, you can actually just click on the main Blackboard link here, but I usually go in through My Campus, just because that'll give you all of the different links. Now, your counselor or your facilitator at your school should have given you your student ID. And then a password, if this is your first time, you would actually click down here, first time user, and it'll take you through how to set up a password. If that doesn't work, you've got to go back and click submit a ticket down here. And that'll send a message to someone to help you get your password set up so that you can access Blackboard. Once you're into Blackboard, actually once you click on that, it'll get you into this screen or directly into Blackboard if you get into Blackboard Direct. I like this one because it has your links to email and to Blackboard all in one spot. Your WITC email will be your official communication for this course. The reason for that is if I post some message in Blackboard and I have it sent to students, it's going to automatically send you your WITC email. So if there's something that comes up and class has to be canceled or whatever, which doesn't happen very often, but that's how you would get the messages through your WITC email. So if you click on Blackboard, you'll go to a page something like this. You have to click on courses to get your list of courses. And you guys probably only have a couple of courses, but I usually sort to get to just my spring 2021 courses. And you'll have your Math for Health Professionals class. So once you're in here, you'll have an opening announcement that'll be there when you first log in. That tells you where things are in the course. Most everything is in the course information tab that we'll look at in a minute. Course Tools has all the email addresses. Like if you forget my email address or whatever, you need to contact me. Course Tools, if you go in there and hit send email, you can send an email to me, or you can send a message to classmates if you want to chat about an assignment or whatever and ask questions amongst yourselves. My grades will show you the grade book with all your grades. Discuss how the grading gets done here in just a little bit. Last little piece here is something to copy down. If you decide you want to log in from home, if you guys have a snow day or whatever at your location, we will only close class here if all of the schools are closed for a snow day or if WITC is shut down for snow. If just one or two locations are shut down, we'll continue with class. So you can log into class from home using that link and that information there to do that. So back to the course information tab. That's where most of the interesting stuff for this course is. I want to make sure all my tabs are activated here. They are. So in the course information tab, you will find my contact information. So if you need to get a hold of me, email is the best way to do it. I'll check it a couple times a day. The syllabus, we'll come back to in a second. My schedule isn't so important for you guys because you're not on campus, so you can't drop in and see me. But it's there if you need to schedule a chat. We can always come here. If I'm not in class, we can meet in this BlueJeans software using that link that I just showed you. And we can go over homework or a test or whatever if you have questions on something you need to work through. And then there will be a folder down here. Now this folder is just for the first week. If you click, actually that one's, I've got to adjust that one yet. I've got it as an object rather than a folder. But you'll click on that, and in that will be the links to the lectures this week, and it'll tell you what the homework assignments are. So if you miss a class, that's where you would go to view the recorded lecture and to get the homework assignment. Well, let's come back to the syllabus now. Okay, so this course is designed for a number of different programs at WITC, but it is designed for two purposes: to serve the needs of programs in the health industry. Um, Associate degree nursing, paramedic, both require this course. Health information technologies, it's an option. Medical assistant, it's an option. And for any medical related program, it's a good option to have. The second purpose it does is it helps prepare for a college level math course. In fact, Wisconsin's changed some laws that at some point, anybody with an associate degree in nursing is going to have to go on to a bachelor's degree, complete a bachelor's degree to maintain their registration. Part of this course, the last couple of units of this course, is to help prepare you for that next step with a little bit of pre-algebra and some basic statistics to prepare you. Those are the two classes you would have in a bachelor's degree in any health-related field. Would be college algebra or intermediate college algebra and statistics. So we prepare you a little bit for those two courses. This class is a 2-credit class, which means it has 32 hours of instruction. We have you guys scheduled for 3 hours a week because of the typical conflicts between high school schedule and WITC schedule. I think we have, 6 locations this year? We usually have 3 or 4. Even with just a few locations, there's always different spring breaks, different vacation days, in-service days and stuff like that. So our goal is to get actually about 35 or 36 class periods during this semester to get through all the material. And we'll look at the scheduling here. That's actually going to be our assignment for today, is to look at scheduling and help me figure out scheduling. This is just some section numbers. You guys are logging in from your own location, so you don't need to know room numbers and stuff like that. My contact information again. Your textbook is Math for the Health Sciences. Your school should have that for you. Is there anybody that does not have the textbook? You give me a wave. Well, you don't have it yet in Boston? Okay, they should have either a couple of copies there, or they should be in transit being sent to you.
They have their books.
They have them? Okay. Perfect. We won't have a book assignment until Wednesday anyway, but it's good to know we all have them. It's not required, but it is highly recommended that you have a calculator with fraction functions on it. Most of your scientific calculators have a fraction function now. If you don't have one, the one I recommend is the Texas Instruments TI-30. That one seems to be the simplest one to use. It's anywhere from $10 to $13. Otherwise, there is the Casio. It's about $7 or $8 that does most of the things, but it's a little bit more tedious to use. If you already have a calculator, chances are it'll work. If you have a graphing calculator that you've had to have for other classes, you are more than welcome to use it. I will warn you, the one thing that most graphing calculators don't do well is fractions. So the super calculator actually does some things a little bit better than the graphing one does. I get asked every semester if you can use your cell phone, because many of the high schools have cell phone restrictions as far as using the calculator for cell phones or using your cell phone at all during a test. I ask that you don't use the cell phone. So for our competency, we start out with the first unit. I ask you to indulge me on the first unit because it is a review of basic math. We do it for a couple of reasons. One is we find that many students that struggle with the higher level concepts, it's because they didn't really learn what's going on with the simpler topics, the basic topics. They learned how to do it. When you see this, you do this, but they didn't learn why. So we'll take a little bit of time to talk about why. And the second thing is we'll talk a little bit about, well, get you used to my vocabulary and how I talk and teach. But we'll also talk a little bit about number theory and the basis of numbers and the fact that all numbers work the same, whether they're a fraction, a decimal, an algebraic term, all numbers behave exactly the same, even though they look very different. So we'll talk about that in that first unit. Then we'll talk about ratios, percents, and proportions. And then the second unit is going to concentrate on measurement. and measurement conversions. And this is a very important unit, especially the rate conversions that we will do, because it's what sets us up then for unit 3, which is our big unit on dosage calculations, kind of the whole purpose of the course. Dosage calculations is our biggest unit. It takes about 4 weeks, maybe a touch longer with the high school. It'll be where we calculate all of our dosages, all of our medical calculations and stuff like that. Then moving on into unit 4, like I said, units 4 and 5 are a little bit of our preparation for the next step as you go on to college. Unit 4 is a little bit of basic algebra and graphing. And unit 5 is the basic statistics. Unit 5 usually gets cut a little bit short. That's one of the things I like about the high school classes. If we can get a couple extra days, we can do a little bit more with the data analysis. Grading. Now, because of 6 different locations, handling homework is very difficult to do. Also, because this is a college level course, I trust that you're doing the homework. To me, homework is not an evaluation tool, it's a learning tool. So I give you the homework so that you can learn the material. And I always warn, just because it's not graded doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. And just because it looks easy in class while I'm doing examples doesn't mean it's easy. There's little cues and stuff that I give as I'm working out the problems that help you to do them or help you to understand what needs to be done. When you're looking at a page of homework, those cues aren't there. So it's definitely a different story when you're just looking at a page in the homework without having somebody giving you some guidance. So I stress to at least do, this is not graded, so I'm not going to expect you to do every problem in the homework, but if the first couple problems seem easy, at least skip ahead to some of the more difficult problems and at least do some of the story problems. That's where a lot of students tend to struggle, is when we get into those story problems. If you have any needs, please let me know, whether it's a diagnosed disability or not. I will do whatever I can to work with you. Test anxiety or whatever it is, I'll figure out some way to work with you. For tests, by the way, you will always have unlimited time on tests. We will only take 1 class period for the test, but you can have as much time as you need outside of class to work on it. The only thing I ask is that you have it completed within a week of being due. I don't want to hold on to the test any longer than that. I want to get them back to everybody else, but I don't want to return them until everybody has submitted. So you will get as many, if you need 3 hours to do the test, so be it. If you're done in the 48-minute class period, that's great as well. But you always have a limited time to complete a test. Also, once you're done with the test, you'll have an opportunity to correct it to get some extra points back. So we can discuss that. We'll discuss that after the first test. Also on your test, you'll be able to use your notes and your textbook. So I always figure a real life situation, you're never hung up there without any reference materials. Doesn't mean you shouldn't study, make sure you do understand it, otherwise it can be kind of confusing. These are our contacts at WITC for assistance if you need accommodations. You guys will work with your local counselors and they will communicate any accommodations needed to me. If you have any accommodations for any diagnosed disabilities. Code of conduct, you're on the honor system here. We expect you not to cheat. Come to class, participate. This class goes a lot. I realize I'm talking at you a lot today. This class goes a lot better if you speak up. Looks like we have somebody in Alma Center there. I can't hear you. I don't know if you're muted or what's.
There we go.
There you
Should
go.
be good now. Elizabeth was not aware that the class started today. That was on both myself and our counselor, Ms. Schulte's fault. We did call her and got her in today, though, so she can come and join you guys. Sorry about that.
This right now, Elizabeth, so if you want to take a seat, join in. The one quick thing that you missed that I went over, we have 5-unit tests based solely on the average of those 5-unit tests. You have notes in your books on those tests, and you are allowed to redo them after you've taken one. So there is homework, but the homework is not graded. It's just for practice and learning. Okay, so our delivery mode, obviously, we won't worry. Since we are virtual, we're through the network. We don't have to worry about getting sent, you guys might have to get sent home from the high school for any virus-related issues. Try to find some way to log in from home, or if that happens, you'll be responsible for finding some way to log into class. We're gonna try to stick to our same schedule unless there's some sort of major issue that pops up. That is our grading scale. The WITC grading scale is a little higher than the standard scale. 92.5 and up is your A minuses and A's. What I do is I will submit a percent to your facilitator at your school. If the high school has their own grading scale that they want to grade you off of, they're allowed to do that. So your high school grade and your WITC grade might be different. So just be aware of that. I do that because a lot of high schools have a lower grading scale, so I'll let them grade you on their scale for your high school grade and for your GPA for graduation. You guys can look over that at other times if you wish. I said, in climate weather, we're going to try to meet, even if I can log in from home. I'm hoping you guys have some way as well. Otherwise, if there's a major blizzard and everybody is shut down, we can cancel class for the day. But the first option is to try to log in. And then, of course, the warning, classes are recorded, so don't say anything on camera or during class that you don't want recorded. They are not restricted. They're publicly posted. So other people can watch them, so just be careful of that. If you have something you need to discuss with me that you don't want recorded, I am free. Actually, right now, I think I am free every day after this class for at least 20 minutes. So if you need to stick around at the end of class, I can shut off the recording and we can talk then if there's something you need to say off camera or outside of the recording. And those are our 5 units again. Remember, unit 1 is a review. We'll go through that relatively quickly because being high school students, most of you have had this recently. Much of that is designed for the student who's been out of high school for 10 years and is going back. So we're going to push through it quickly. It actually puts our first unit test on February 3rd. So 2 weeks from this coming Wednesday will be unit 1 test. That goes through pretty quickly. And after that, we'll slow down a little bit as we get into the meat of the course, the measurement conversions, calculations, graphing, and statistics. Anybody have any questions on the syllabus or course procedures? As I said, your grade is based solely on the 5 tests. Five-unit tests. Again, you can use notes in your books and your calculator. On unit 1 test, there are, I think it's 15 questions that you can still use your calculator on them, but what I want you to do is show your steps in your work to show that you know how to find a common denominator with your fractions and stuff like that. So you can still use the calculator to calculate, but you still have to show all the steps in your work. So it's like if you can do it without the calculator, you're probably quicker, but you can still use the calculator for combining numbers. And remember, we said you have extended time. Not getting used for a month. My stylus is a little. So as I said, we'll take 1 class period in class to do or test. But if you need more time outside of that, you are welcome to set that up with your facilitator at your location. Do that. Once the tests are completed, by completed, I mean you've finished them, you've submitted them, I've graded them. You're allowed to do test corrections. Test corrections can get you up to half your points back. So if you had a bad day and you got like a 76 on a test, you do corrections, that gets you back up to an 88. We'll explain how to do those after we've done the first unit. So, as I mentioned, Unit 1 is kind of basic math. I don't do that to insult you. As I mentioned, I do it for a couple of reasons. One is to get you used to things, but the big reason is we found through the years that many students, as I said, know how to do the basic math, but they don't really know why. They can do the calculation, but they don't understand what's going on behind the scenes. And because of that, they don't see the links and the similarities from one form of a number to another. So that's really the purpose. We're not really trying to remind you how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide. We're trying to show you the similarities from one form of another number to another. So the big thing we want to talk about today, concept of a number, and what is a number? If I put a 4 up here, show of hands, how many of you would tell me that that's a number? Most people would. Mathematically, that's actually considered a numeral. It just tells us how much. To actually be considered a number, it has to tell us how much and what it is that we have. So we're going to have 4 cows. So here we have the amount. 4 tells us how many we have. I'm going to refer to that as the count. And then it tells us what it is we have 4 of. In this case, that's the cows. I'm going to refer to that as the name. Now you might be thinking, here's another one of those uptight math teachers that's going to make us label everything. Now, that's not really the purpose of me showing you the count and the name. In medical math, it is important to label because milligrams and micrograms makes a big difference. But the main purpose is to show you how the numbers interact. The two parts of a number interact very differently in our different math computations. To illustrate that, let's look at our most basic math operations. The two most basic math operations are addition and multiplication. Now you might be wondering, well, where is subtraction and division? Well, subtraction is actually part of addition. Addition is going forward, subtraction is going in reverse. Subtraction is actually defined as something called the inverse of addition, the reverse of addition. Any rules that apply to addition apply to subtraction. The same goes for multiplication and division. Multiplication is going forward, division is going in reverse. Any rules that apply to multiplication also apply to division. So if I look at a basic addition problem, if I have 4 inches plus 7 inches, what do I get? Don't be shy, go ahead and yell it out.
I don't see your screen. All I see is a black screen.
Okay, let me back up here and see if it'll share again.
Yeah, now I can.
Oh, you can? Okay. So good. Thanks for letting me know. 4 inches plus 7 inches, what do we get?
11 inches.
11 inches, perfect. That's probably not earth-shattering news there, and we knew that before. But let's take a look at how the two parts of the number interacted, the count and the name. We had 4 and 7 for counts. We ended up with 11. We combined the counts. Because we were adding, we combined them with addition. No matter what operation we do, we're going to combine the counts with whatever operation that is being used. The difference here comes in the names. We had inches and inches, and we ended up with inches. When we add or subtract, we end up keeping the same. Now, again, that might not be a huge revelation to you, but when we look at multiplication and division, there's a key difference. If I look at 4 inches times 7 inches, what do we get there?
28.
28. And we have to be careful with the units. Actually, inches squared or square inches. If you think about it, we're multiplying 7 inches times, or 4 inches times 7 inches. Chances are we're looking at an area of some sort. And we're going to get square inches. So again, let's look at what happened with our count and our name. If we look at our counts, we had 4 and 7. Ended up with 28. So once again, when we multiply or divide, find the counts. As we said, no matter what operation we use, we're going to end up combining the counts in some way. Big difference comes with the names. We had inches and inches, and we ended up with square inches. When we multiply or divide, also find the names. Now that's a big deal. It doesn't seem like it's a huge difference, but that difference there between addition and subtraction and multiplication and division, where in addition and subtraction we keep the same name, and in multiplication and division we combine the names, actually is the reason for all of the different processes we have for all of our other forms of numbers. In fact, it even tells us what numbers we can use in each operation. For example, if I have 5 cows plus 3 boys, if I get 8 cowboys, no, of course not, right? That's silly. Or if we did it the other way around, 3 boys plus 5 cows, 8 boy cows. Again, very silly. Any of you with a farming background could tell me that that is a bunch of bull, right? A long ways to go for a joke, but there was a point behind it. I cannot add cows and boys, 5 cows and 3 boys, because they don't have the same name. When we are adding and subtracting numbers, we're going to keep the same name, which implies we had to start with the same name. Otherwise, we don't know what name to keep. If they have different names, we don't know which one to keep. So we cannot combine numbers, different names, with addition and subtraction. A little bit more practical example, rather than making cowboys, is if I have 5 feet plus 2 pounds. I cannot add 5 feet and 2 pounds because they have different names, different labels. I end up with just 5 feet and 2 pounds. Nothing more I can do with it. But if I am multiplying 5 feet times 2 pounds, because when I multiply, I'm also going to combine the names, I don't have to start with the same name. Find my counts, 5 times 2 equals 10. Then I also combine the names. Feet times pounds, pounds. There's our big difference between addition and multiplication and division. So when we multiply and divide, we do not have to have the same name. That carries through to many of the same rules we've seen with our other forms of numbers. Let's look at everybody's favorite kind of number. Note the sarcasm there. Fractions. We look at these, the top number is called what? I mumble it there, numerator. Bottom number is called a denominator. Good. What is a numerator and a denominator? Well, the numerator, we just finished up 2020, the census. Every 10 years, the government sends out workers to do the census to numerate the population of the country. They are counting. A numerator, count. Denominator. Well, we have different denominations of money, different denominations of organizations. To denominate means to classify or to give a name. So the numerator and denominator of a fraction are nothing more than a count and a name. It isn't two numbers, it's one number with two parts. So if I go to do operations with fractions, if I have 3/7 plus 2/7, first of all, if we go back to about 3rd or 4th grade, when we first started adding fractions, that 3rd grade teacher told us to add or subtract fractions, you must have a common denominator. That's nothing new to fractions. Any number, before we can add or subtract, we must have the same name. Then we were told once we have the common denominator, find the numerators. Plus 2 is 5. And then you keep the common denominator. Again, this is not a special process for fractions. Anytime we add or subtract numbers, we combine the counts and we keep the same name. Exactly what we did here. We were multiplying fractions. 3/7 times 2/7. Again, we were taught you just multiply straight across. Combine numerator with numerator. 3 times 2 is 6. Denominator with denominator. 7 times 7 is 49. Again, that's not a special rule for fractions. Anytime we multiply numbers, combine the counts, and then we also combine the names. If I had 1/4 plus 3/5, I can't add them as they're written because they have different names. They're fourths and fifths. We'll look at how to change those names. We'll review. I'm sure you all know how to do that, get the common denominator, but we'll review that in a couple days. But if we're multiplying, we do not have to have the same name. In other words, we don't need the common denominator. Because whenever we multiply or divide, we do not need the same name. We're just going to combine the counts, multiply the numerators. 1 times 3 is 3. And then combine the names. 4 times 5 is 20. So all the special rules you learn for fractions aren't special. They're the same rules we have for any other number. For decimals, many of you would read that as 0.21, but the formal way of pronouncing it is 21 hundredths. Now you can see that there's a count and a name there. And if I want to add 0.21 plus 0.3, is that going to work? No. Why not? Well, we've been taught that when you add we add decimals, you have to line up the decimal points. The question becomes, why? Well, we've already seen that this is 21 hundredths. This is actually 3/10. They have different names. Fortunately, if I just put a 0 there, that becomes now 30 hundredths. If I had that 0 there, the decimal points would just line up automatically. Lining up the decimal points when we add or subtract numbers, decimals, is just making sure the two numbers have the same name. Then we add those, 21 and 30 make 51. We've been taught that you just drop the decimal point straight down. Again, why? Well, this is 21 hundredths plus 30 hundredths better get an answer that has that same name, hundredths. This is 51 hundredths. When we bring the decimal point straight down when we add or subtract decimals, it's just keeping the name. Now, if I multiply decimals, notice I did not line up my decimal point there, and I don't have to. Because when we multiply or divide, we do not need the same name. 21 times 3 is 63. Where do I put my decimal point? 1, 2, I have to add a 0 and put it there. Why do we do that? You have to count 1, 2, 3 decimal places in the problem. You start at the end of the number, count backwards, 1, 2, 3 decimal places in the answer, right? Well, the question again comes back to why? Well, this is 21 hundredths, 3 tenths. You have to combine the counts. 21 times 3 is 63. But remember, when we multiply or divide, we also combine the names. Hundredths times tenths is thousandths. So when we're counting those decimal places in the problem and putting that many decimal places in our answer, what we're really doing is combining the names. Of course, we can get into numbers like this, 4x, the algebraic terms. Some people get a little nervous when we start combining your variables with their numbers, but this, as you can see from what we've been talking about, we have a count, there's 4 of something here, and we have a name. In this case, the name is x. The difference is we know what inches or sevenths or feet or whatever are. We don't know what x is, but it doesn't matter. It behaves exactly the same way. If I have 4x plus 9x, I'm going to get, we add the counts, 4 plus 9 is 13, and we keep the same name of x. If I'm multiplying 4x times 9x, 4 times 9 is 36, and we also combine the names. Just like inches times inches became inches squared, x times x becomes x squared. What if we have 5x plus 2y? Well, those have different names. We can't combine them. That's just 5x and 2y. Or 5x plus 2y is the way that has to stay. Nothing to do with it. If it's 5x times 2y, find the counts. 5 times 2 is 10. And we also combine the names. Just like feet times pounds became foot-pounds, x times y becomes xy. All of those special rules that you learn for the different types of numbers aren't special. They're the same rules we use for every type of number. They just look different with each type of number because each number has slightly different pieces to it. When we go to divide, well, let's look at a simple multiplication. If I might have something like 3 times 5x. I do 3 times 5 is 15, and there's no name on that 3. If there's no name there, name is implied to be ones. So when I combine the name ones times x, well, anything times 1 is itself. That would just be 15x. I had 3x times 5x. I combine the counts. 3 times 5 is 15. X times x is x squared. When I go to divide, I have to reverse that. If I have 18x divided by 3, again, this is implied to be ones here because there's no name there. 18 divided by 3 is 6. X divided by 1, so anything divided by 1 is just itself, just x. If I have 18x divided by 3x, I have 18 divided by 3 is still 6, combining the counts. X divided by X, though, is anything divided by itself is 1, so that's 6 ones, or just 6. The other thing I could have is 18x squared divided by x. Again, I combine the counts. 18 divided by 6 is 3. X squared divided by x is just x. X times x is x squared, so to work backwards, x squared divided by x would give us just x. Your homework, your assignment. Between now and Wednesday, send an email to me. And my email address is todd.hoff@witc.edu. Send an email to me at that address giving me any days that you would be out of class. So any days on your school's calendar where there's a Monday, Wednesday, or a Friday where there's an in-service, vacation day, or whatever, that includes spring breaks, vacations, in-service, whatever. If you look at early release, if there's an early release day on any of those days that might affect this class, let me know as well. I know many schools have Wednesday early releases or Friday early releases, or they have shortened class periods or whatever. Let me know any of those dates so that I can put together a calendar here in the next few days. And by the end of the week, we can have a calendar of what days we're going to actually meet this semester. Because there will be some days, because different schools will have different vacations around Easter and spring break there, where you might have school, but we won't have this class because of all the different breaks between the different. Anybody have any questions? Okay, well, thank you for coming to class today. It's good to meet all of you. I'm looking forward to a strong semester. We will see you all on Wednesday.